We used to go to a place called Promised Land Camp. It's a great camp. And during our time there, the man that was the superintendent of the grounds and the director of the camp, among other things, he would take us on a midnight hike. And we were convinced that we were following no path. And talking with him, he said that he was following the stars. And we just felt our way as we followed him. But you know, when we walk a path over and over again, it becomes familiar. Indeed, a path is formed where there was no path. Frankfort Avenue, just a few blocks from us here, started out as a Native American footprint path. Now we call it Frankfort Avenue. So if you keep on traveling a path, you establish a path. And so my prayer is that this is starting to get and to be very familiar to us. Chapter 1 of 1 Thessalonians, key word, commendation. If we put anything of this message in print, we're not going to capture this picture. We have a video of the message this morning. I don't think we're going to capture this picture that's on the PowerPoint. I looked at that picture, and it seems to me that the recipient of the medal, the commendation, he does not look puffed up, does he?
Yeah.
He almost looks like he's saying to himself, I am not worthy of this. Now, I don't know, I really can't say for sure about the church of Thessalonica. But I think this is a very real possibility. Catch this. That is a very humble church. The Apostle Paul was only there 3 weeks. He writes this letter as a follow-up. He says some very nice things in chapter 1. That he gives thanks to God always, verse 2, making mention of them in his prayers. And he speaks of the example and the testimony that was theirs. Verse number 7, chapter 1. You became examples to all in Macedonia and Achaia who believe. We have no record of the finances of this church. We have really no reason to think that their finances were off the chart. We have no record of their attendance or their membership. No notation of that. But there is notation of several other things that make them worthy of commendation. We just read it. Verse number 7, you became examples to all in Macedonia and Achaia. And to catch the significance of that, it's not a stretch at all to equate Thessalonica with Wissinoming, Philadelphia. And then take the geographic proportions of places that are mentioned here, Macedonia and Achaia, and to say that the congregation in Wissinoming, Philadelphia has a testimony that reaches throughout Pennsylvania. Or to say that the influence, the testimony, the example of the Wissinoming, Philadelphia congregation reaches as far north as New York City and as far south to Baltimore, Maryland. You say, Pastor, you got to be kidding. No, I'm not kidding. That is the same geographic proportion that the Apostle Paul was talking about when he says to them in chapter 1, verse 7, you became examples to all in Macedonia and Achaia. And it had nothing to do with how much money they had, or what their building looked like, or what their attendance was. It had to do with their faith, their love, and their hope. And he speaks of that in verse number 3. Remembering without ceasing your work of faith, your labor of love, and patience of hope in our Lord Jesus Christ in the sight of our God and Father. The Apostle Paul is encouraged because things are happening in Thessalonica. In chapter 2, it's fair to give to this chapter just a one-word summary, as we explore the path that we've been walking. Exhortation. Even when we receive commendation, recognition for something, it's necessary from time to time for us to receive exhortation or admonition. In a positive sense, it's that which encourages us. But I was looking at this picture, and it seems to me the fellow on the ground might be thinking, I can't go another inch further. I can't. And the sergeant is yelling, you will. Do it. Go for it. Maybe he's a nice guy and he's saying you can do it. But the Apostle Paul, in writing this letter, does something that's very important when we write our letters and we say things to people. What? The nice things first. The nice things first. And then mention the other things. The Apostle Paul wrote a letter to the church of Ephesus, and he wrote to the dads. And he said, don't discourage your children. Lead them, admonish them, direct them, instruct them. But don't bring them to the place that they throw up their hands and they quit. My brother was a Marine. I admire and I respect him for that and for other things. In many ways, he's a better man than I am, though he does not see it that way. But he told me of his training, and I am convinced that I would not be able to do that. You and I, all of us, are in a fight, we're in a struggle. And we do need to be encouraged and to say things that are nice things to one another. Truths, not lies, not exaggerations, not flattery, but encouragements. Congratulations. A pat on the back. But chapter 2 is the admonition. I want to ask you something this morning. Are you willing, generally speaking, an eyeball to eyeball, for your pastor to say, when need be, a negative? A negative. Would that mean to you, goodbye? I still like you, Pastor, but I never want to see or talk to you again. If I ever said to you, we need to talk, would you say to me, let's do it?